Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens, and welcome back to our series on young venture capitalists. We're here today with Luke Armour, the founder and managing partner at Chaac Ventures and a Forbes 30 under 30 venture capitalist. Luke was a former Division I player at Princeton University and now continues his connection with the college by helping students and alumni grow their businesses from Princeton. Chaac Ventures, the venture firm that Luke started, invests in and leverages the Princeton ecosystem of founders, executives, venture capitalists, technologists, and investors. Chaac Ventures has seeded 16 early stage tech companies, including Overtime, FiscalNote, Skyfront, and Finalis. Luke, thank you for your phenomenal support of the next generation of entrepreneurs, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Shri, thank you. I love your show. I think you're destined for great things, and thank you so much for having me.
Luke, thank you so much. Can you share with us what drove you to the field of venture capital and what was the most favorite part of your journey?
Absolutely. So I had a very serendipitous start and introduction to the venture capital world. I actually landed an internship while I was in college after my sophomore year, working at a firm in New York called Bold Start Ventures. And this was back in 2010. It was an early stage firm. They were just getting started. And having the opportunity to work alongside Ed Sim and Elliot Durbin, who are the two co-founders and general partners at Bold Start, was incredible. And I just remember that summer thinking to myself, this is so much fun. I can't believe that people do this for their job, and just loved learning about early stage companies and the overall concept of trying to figure out the right questions to ask and the right investments to make. So that was my first foray into VC, and that's what really inspired me to try and pursue it later in life.
And Luke, you started out in VC at a very young age, right after sophomore year of college, and you're now one of the youngest VCs out there in the field. I'd like to ask, what are some of your keys to success in the field of venture capital, and what are some of the obstacles that young VCs can face?
So there are a lot of obstacles as a young VC. First and foremost, there's a long feedback loop in terms of performance. So when we make investments, it's typically at the earliest stages, seed and pre-seed stage companies. So one difficult part is that it can take 7, 8, 9, 10 years for companies to fully reach their potential and really start to see growth. I think another obstacle for young VCs is simply the lack of experience and not having been through so many years, so many conversations. And so the way that we try to mitigate that is just to always be learning, working with our advisors, trying to become better investors, smarter, more disciplined investors. And hopefully we're doing a good job of that.
I think you're doing an absolutely wonderful job now because Chaac Ventures, which you founded, has become really successful and additionally helps students and alumni right out of Princeton as well. Chaac Ventures focuses on the Princeton entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem. I'd love to ask you, can you tell us more about your experience with young college founders and startups? And what are some unique aspects of working with those younger startups?
Absolutely. And it's so much fun. And thank you for the kind words. Um, you know, I consider myself to be a founder. Our company does something different than the companies we invest in, but we really are all together building our companies and in the trenches, as they say, working through the day-to-day obstacles. And so it's a lot of fun. I think that in our portfolio, we have a great mix of founders, young and old, Black, white, Asian, Latina. And I think that what's so much fun is getting to work with so many different types of founders who have different areas of expertise and experience. But the reality is that building a startup is incredibly difficult for anyone. And you regularly see repeat founders who have been ultra successful start another company, and everyone thinks, oh, this is a slam dunk. And even those founders really struggle. So for the younger founders who we invest in and work with, we emphasize the importance of finding great mentors and advisors. And we try to help our young founders surround themselves with the best, most experienced team possible, who can help them see around corners, help them work through challenges. And that's one thing really that we recommend for founders young and old, because you can't have enough smart, aligned, motivated people around you, and also positive people who you can lean on. It's very important, as there are a lot of ups and downs in the entrepreneurial journey.
And I think one of the great points that you sort of hit on is being able to work with so many people from so many diverse backgrounds, and having the opportunity and the ability to sort of lean on one another for positivity and making sure help each other out. And that's one of the reasons, Luke, that Chaac Ventures is so unique and effective, because you're essentially able to create a community and family amongst previous Princeton alumni and current founders. And I'd like to ask, how do you work to build this community and network? And how did this network really start?
Absolutely. So this network started far before Chaac Ventures. Obviously, Princeton is, one of the oldest institutions in our country. And, I think that one of the great elements of focusing on Princeton is the fact that there is that familiar feel. There's an amazing collaborative spirit in the Princeton network. People love working together. And so over the years, we've connected with thousands of Princeton alums, students, professors, trustees, investment bankers, teachers, lawyers. And we feel that, it's such an incredible network. And it's a network that's more and more becoming entrepreneurial and getting involved with startups. So just think that in terms of building the network, we continue to do the work of making the connections and meeting as many people as we can, and then ultimately serving as the connective fabric for this ecosystem and kind of being the go-to place for any and all Princeton alumni affiliated startups and technology ventures.
And I want to sort of go back to a question that was previously asked, with this family and ecosystem that you're creating within Princeton, it comes with a lot of individuals being sort of very young. And I'd like to ask, what are some of the common obstacles from your experience that younger college founders and startups can face?
Absolutely. First and foremost, similar theme of just not having the years of operating experience, industry experience. That has nothing to do with ambition, creativity, intelligence, capabilities. But what I would say is, again, early stage companies are all about collaboration. I get excited when I see a 20 or 21 or 22-year-old founder who many VCs or investors might say, oh, what could this person possibly know about this space? They're so young, they have no experience. But what we see is an opportunity. This could be the next Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, or the next Elon Musk. However, in order to get there, we usually need to help build the team, help put the people around that young founder to be successful and to thrive. And I think that that's kind of the commonality that we're seeing. And again, young and old founders, team is everything, and putting the right pieces together that can help guide your company through the ups and downs.
And Luke, because you're investing in these companies at such an early and young age, you're often, really helping to help build the team, help really build the business and get it off the ground as well. So I think this question is one that's really going to be, very personal to you when I ask, what is one company that you invested in that you feel is one of the most successful?
Absolutely. It's a tough question to answer because we have so many exciting things happening with our portfolio companies, and we're still in the very early days of our portfolio creation. But one company that I would love to highlight is called Overtime, which is based in Brooklyn and was founded by Dan Porter, who's a Princeton alum from the class of 1988. has an incredible background, has started and sold a company before that was called OMG Pop. They were the creators of the world famous Draw Something app, which became the most downloaded app in the history of the App Store. And previously, Dan had worked with Richard Branson. He had worked at Teach for America. So just, incredible background. And we met back in 2016 in New York, and I heard his pitch and his vision for building the sports platform for the next generation of sports fans, i.e., Gen Z, millennials, but really that younger demographic who weren't necessarily sitting down anymore to watch a full basketball game or a full football game, who weren't necessarily sitting down at 7 p.m. every night to watch Sports Center Top 10 anymore, and who weren't necessarily going out every month and purchasing Sports Illustrated magazine, which is, what we read when I was growing up. And that was sort of the pinnacle, to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated or to be on Sports Center Top 10. So fast forward to 2021, Overtime has built a platform and a following of over 50 million Gen Zers and millennials around the world. It's a very international following, and they've built an incredibly exciting, creative platform around sports. And now so much more than that. It started just with highlights of dunks and crossovers from basketball gyms all over the country and all over the world. And it was mostly user generated through iPhones. Now it's really more of a content media production company with adjacent businesses built around this nucleus of the following that they've built. So incredibly excited. They recently raised $80 million from Jeff Bezos, Blackstone, Morgan Stanley, Chaac Ventures, of course. And we're really excited for the years ahead.
And this is one company that I can say this for. I personally love it. I've spent a lot of time watching Overtime, and it's absolutely great. It's a fabulous innovation that I think really brought a lot of common individuals from even high school closer to people at the NBA or NFL at the professional level. And so it's absolutely wonderful that you've been able to support this and what Overtime has been able to do. And I think one of the points that you hit on is, this was an entrepreneurship journey for this man which started at a very, very young age. Overtime wasn't his, necessarily first entrepreneurial venture. And I'm personally fortunate that my high school has an entrepreneurship program called Spark Incubator, and I owe lots of my personal growth today to Spark. I'd like to ask Luke, how do you think more high schools and colleges can facilitate an environment for innovation and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And that's so cool that you're involved with Spark. I would love to read more about that. It's a tough thing because entrepreneurship is not necessarily something that you can take a class on. It's a very much a learn by doing type of thing. And the best way to learn about entrepreneurship is, in fact, not in the classroom, but actually out on the field and out building products. So I think that high schools and colleges they have a massive opportunity to help facilitate those creative ideas and helping incubate projects like it sounds like Spark does. But I think it's overall putting students in a position to be creative, to launch products, to have pitch competitions and hackathons, and I think also to provide the proper reading and there's the proper curriculum around how should students be approaching entrepreneurship, not necessarily how do you be an entrepreneur, how to be an entrepreneur, but how can students position themselves for a career of entrepreneurship. I think would be very valuable.
And Luke, I want to sort of continue on that idea. How do you think now teen entrepreneurs at even younger ages can leverage the resources of the venture capital world?
Well, it's an incredible time to be in the space simply because there are more resources than ever before. Harry Stebbings, he is this incredible story based in the UK, young guy who started a podcast, and it's called 20 Minute VC. And
Uh,
he has grown it to be an incredibly popular show. And any student that I connect with, I ask them if they know about 20-minute VC, because you can listen to one of the episodes every morning if you want, and basically be sitting front row in a conversation with some of the world's best founders and investors. So, I mean, you really could build an entire curriculum, a self-study of podcasts and articles, and there's no shortage of that. VCs are often writing thought pieces and releasing information about their investment philosophies. So would be happy to provide some of those resources for you, and maybe you can share with your community. But I think you can be the next Harry Stebbings if you keep this up. You'll definitely have to check him out.
well, thank you so much for your kind words. And I've definitely heard of 20-minute VC, and I've heard sort of some bits and pieces from it. And Luke, I want to sort of shift over to the last sort of question, which is, in a more general sense, what is your advice for teens and youth? And how can we be innovators and agents of change just like yourself?
I think, especially coming out of the year and a half that we've had battling with coronavirus and the global pandemic, I think that the best thing young entrepreneurs can do is to realize that life is short and these are chaotic times we are living in. But what better than to try to go big and be out in the world building something that we care about, that hopefully will make the world a better place. But my advice would be to make the most of every day, surround yourself with inspiring, positive people, learn as much as you can, and go as big as possible, because really life is short and building a company is so much fun, so incredible. And I think it's, if anyone out there ever wants to talk about startups or getting your company launched, please do reach out. I would love to speak with you.
Luke, we thank you so much for your phenomenal leadership, support of the venture community, and for your support of young entrepreneurs and the value that they bring to our country. And thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions.
Thank you. I love your show. Thank you so much, Sri.